So take it away, Belle.
Okay. Hello, welcome. So this month for December, I chose Classica. I think 'tis the season to be cozy, right? So one of the great things, gosh, there's so many things I want to say. I don't even know where to start. But one of the great things about Classica is it makes fabulous blankets. It's a really nice, let's start. So Classica is hand spun from their Corriedale sheep that are raised in Uruguay. So if I can get romantical on you, um, this is one of those yarns that really feels so close to the source, because not only is it hand dyed by the women in Uruguay, it's also hand spun by them. And it's got, and the sheep live there too. The whole thing, you take a skein from here, and it's like a woman in Uruguay is giving you something directly from her country, which I think is really neat. It's an air and weight, and it's a thick and thin. And so what thick and thin means is you're gonna have some variation. You can see that. Actually, this one's kind of fairly thick and puffy all over, but you're going to have some variation in the strings, which again, I feel, to get romantic on you, is so close to the source. You're taking it out of her hands, which I think is so neat. There's something in our culture that, everything is, we're kind of focused on perfection, right? And everything is being machined. And so there's times when you want precision. Handmade goods are inherently imperfect, and I think that's what adds to their uniqueness and their beauty. Adding a yarn that is hand dyed and hand spun is just extra layers of humanity to your piece, right? And I think that is, again, it's just lovely. So
And that's true. And that's the yarn that started it all. 52 years ago,
this is
Manos started
very
with that
yarn.
yarn.
Yeah, so this is their very first yarn. So it is the roots of this company. It is the roots of handmade goods made by women. It's kind of, it's at the origins of these handcrafts. And so I think that's really, really nice. There's this saying in Japan, it's called wabi sabi. And it's essentially finding the beauty and the usefulness, the uniqueness of imperfect things. And so a lot of folks, they get a little turned off by the, oh, well, parts of it they're not the same size, it's not consistent. And I think that's something, instead of a flaw, it's something to look at as a unique characteristic and as something that adds character to your piece. It adds a lot of rich texture and depth. So even if you're knitting, stockinette, you're going to notice that that kind of losing all my words tonight. Sorry. You're going to notice that thick and thin, and it really makes your hand knits shine. And so again, it's about embracing that imperfection. You don't want it to be perfect. You want it to be handmade. You want it to be loved. You want it to be used. And I think Classica does a great job with that. It's, like I said, it's made of Corriedale. So it's another thing that I think Classica gets a little overlooked as you walk down the aisles and you touch the Maxima and you touch the Alegria Grande and you think, oh, it's delicious and soft and squishy. And then they turn the corner and they come to the Classica and they say, I guess it's nice, but they move on. And so it's not that beautiful, soft, squishy next to the skin, but it's not rough. It's, what would I think I would describe it as crisp. And there's something to be said for yarns that aren't merino. So merino is the softest sheep, softest breed of wool. And so it's got a very nice hand. It's very fluffy, but the the balance to that is other breeds tend to be a little bit more hard wearing. They won't, even though this is a single ply, I don't think you'll find that it pills as much as the Maxima would, because the Corriedale, the staple, the length and the crimp of the each little fiber is just a little stronger. It's a little more hard wearing. So that's why it's also really good for household items like blankets. So coming back around to what I started with was, 'tis the season to be cozy. And this is a fabulous yarn for making blankets. It's going to be hard wearing. It's going to be luscious and colorful because it's got all those beautiful Manos colors that shine in wool. I mean, you can see just how vibrant these are. And they're going to be long lasting. So you're going to get, you know, years of cuddling on the couch with your blanket, taking it outside next to the fire, taking it on a camping trip with you. It's going to last and hold up wonderfully. And it will soften with age and use. And as you wash it, hand wash because it's not superwash. So if you did want to felt with it, this is a fabulous yarn for felting with. We have a fun little purse here. Look at that little sheep on it. You can't go wrong with a little felted sheep, right? So this is definitely a go-to for felting as well, because it's a non-superwash. But yeah, don't let that scare you off from making garments with it, or even its roughness. And like I said, it's not even rough. It's just when you compare it to merino, nothing's going to be as soft as merino. But you're not wearing, you know, sandpaper. You're not wearing what's the word, steel wool or anything. It's just not as soft as merino. But it's got this great durability, this really fun, unique texture, and gosh.
It's true. Christy had a great comment. She put in the chat. She calls it a little toothy.
Yes, toothy. Yeah, so that's why
A little al dente.
yeah, that's what when I say crisp, and that's kind of what it is. It's a little toothy. And so those are the yarns that you'll find tend to last longer. They're going to hold up more. So, you know, all those really old Irish sweaters. And, you know, it's like, oh, wool is very scratchy and, you know, not comfortable. And a lot of times it's because it was that old wool that had more tooth to it, you know, some of the older breeds. But whereas it's not as soft, those sweaters are still around because that wool is like iron, you know, because it holds on to itself, which is why it doesn't, you know, put off pills and it doesn't fall apart, because it's very sturdy, very strong, long-lasting yarn. So
this yarn has when we were there in Uruguay 3 or 4 years ago, they had this booklet of kind of the history of Manos and all the designers from around the world that have used this yarn and continue to use Classica. And it's all the big name fashion houses that you know all the names of continue to use this yarn for all those properties. And when you talk about it's right from the woman's hand, while we were there, we were watching them spinning. And it's absolutely true. When we talked about Classica, there's a real fondness for that yarn at Manos, which are now the generations of the women that own the company.
Tamara wanted to say something about the yarn.
Hi. I just wanted to add that one of the things I love about Classica is how it grabs onto the dye. If you just look, you can see it a little bit on the screen. This navy blue, if you look at it, it's this gorgeous night sky. And you'll see it even more in person, but there's something very special about the way Classica takes the dye. So you're going to find the colors, you know, really luscious when you use them. I made a hat out of this once. It was great. That was it for me.
Great, thanks. And those of you who don't know, Tamara is another one of our amazing, fabulous staff members.
So yeah, so that's Classica comes in 138 yards per skein. And I know it's hard to see. We've got, there's all the space dyed ones kind of at the bottom. They've got a huge range in Classica because, as we previously stated, this was their very first yarn. This was the yarn that started it all. This is the yarn that's really made a name for the women there, and this one will never go away. And they just keep adding more colors to it. So it's wonderful, wonderful stuff. 1950 per skein for the space dyed, and 1850 for the solid colors. And they're gorgeous, always really fun. So now I guess we can just go ahead and jump into our patterns. Since I started with proclaiming my joy of comfortable blankies, let's show you the blankies. So this is called the Salida del Sol throw. And you can't get more simple than this. I mean, I guess if it wasn't on the diagonal, but then that wouldn't be as fun. But this is just garter stitch. And you're doing it on the diagonal. And you've got 7 colors to play with. And then you've got a nice little garter border that you add to it at the end, because you go all around, pick up stitches. Actually, I think you do it in pieces. So you do one side and then one side and then one side. And this blanket, I don't know if you can see, but this is one of their older models. And it's been, you know, tracked around everywhere. And it's showing its wear because it is a blanket and it gets fondled all the time. But it's holding up beautifully because of that wonderful durable Classica yarn. Look at that bright yellow. Highlighter, in case that's what that color makes you think of. So we've made some kits for these. As always, our kits are just starting points, jumping off points, suggestions. We are always happy to help you choose your own colors, but I did put together a few. This was a wide ranging color for their original. For mine, I did a bit more, we'll say more thematic. I kept it a bit more in certain color stories.
Let's share the screen now.
For that original set of colors, one of the colors, this will tell you how old this blanket is, one of the colors is being discontinued. So we've got 2 skeins, enough to do 2 full kits. Otherwise, the color that's going away, we actually have a color that is very close to that, and we can easily swap it out. You probably won't even notice the difference. And you can still have that original look and feel of the original blanket. And then beyond that, I did some nice greens. Imagine getting cozy in a log cabin. So you've got some woodsy colors here. So your base is going to be that top color. And then the stripes are going to be these deep browns and greens and a pop of bright green, and just very kind of wet woods looking. And of course, rainbow. How could I? There was 7 stripes. How could I not do a rainbow kit? So you've got the blue of the sky is going to be your background color. And there's our Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
That's a great one. I love that one.
That
Big
was
surprise.
fun. And big surprise, this is my favorite. Again, we've got that neutral background. I actually debated whether or not I liked the neutral background, or there's a color called straw. It's a very pale yellow. But I love this. I literally kind of went and looked online. I imagine, you know, those baskets of spices piled high in, you know, Marrakesh and all those places where they've got them in their markets. And that's what I imagine. So it smells and looks spicy. Spice market. And because you can never go wrong with blues and grays, this one is oceanic. And I went with very moody grays and moody blues. And the background is a very pale, pale gray. Yeah, I actually like that one. Like I said, though, we are more than happy to put together anything. You know, if you want to tell me, well, I like pink and green, I will put together a pink and green throw for you. That's the fun part. So that's the Salida del Sol throw.
Carmen did an American flag throw this last.
Ah. This is another very famous throw. There's, gosh, I think there's 2 more blankets on the Manos website because Classica is such a great home goods yarn. They've got several blankets or throws out of it. You could also do, gosh, pillow covers, little poofs. There's all kinds of things you can do with this yarn. It truly is a fabulous, fabulous yarn. And for those that are worried that the thick and thin, you know, can look so dramatic in the skein, but when you knit it up, you really don't see it so much as it just adds a little extra depth and layer. There's a little texture. Obviously, this is also textured by the stitch, but beyond that, you can see those swaths of stockinette. And there's some variation in your stitches, but again, this is the handmade beauty of it. That kind of close to the source, being truly authentic and as I say, human. You don't want perfect things, you want loved things. So this is called the 4 Seasons throw. It's kind of your classic sampler. They Manos themselves put together a bunch of color combos. I think this one is technically spring or summer. Oh yes, Tamara wants me to show you the fringe, her favorite part. Fringe is back in style too. So what's really fun about the fringe is they took all the colors of the throw and they put them in the fringe, which I think is a great way of tying it all together. Plus, it's a fun way to check and see if the colors you picked will go together. To me, this just looks like a little vibrant English garden of little flower boxes.
It's true. We
So,
have that,
yeah.
and that pattern is on our website. It's a pattern booklet.
Yes, pattern booklet. And this one's going to be a little more portable for you than the Salida del Throw. You can, you know, do the squares and then join them together afterwards. So when you're tootling around, you don't have to have a giant blanket in your lap. But 'tis the season to be cozy. So working on blankets right now. Very nice. And it's just the start of winter, so you'll still get plenty of use out of it.
I'll just show everybody what that looks like on the website.
So there you can see some of their other color combinations. I think they did one for each season. Makes sense.
You can put together whatever you want. We didn't put together kits on this. As Belle says, we're happy to help.
Yeah, I figured, you know, at this point, because I believe this is a very old book, I figured a lot of those were going to be discontinued possibly at this point, and really it's not that hard to just, you know, find the colors and put them together for you. So yeah, I think that's a great piece.
And the woman that designed it, Judith Shangold, was the original Manos distributor.
Oh, fun.
Who lived in the Boston area.
I see. Thrown in Boston again.
That's right. When in doubt.
All right. So then we'll jump to our first garment. Pullovers were very popular last time, and I am very partial to pullovers. So I brought in this very, very fun piece. It is called, let me refresh my memory, the Murray pullover. I don't know if it's focusing or not. So this is really fun. Again, as I always say, here we are to play with color. They did shocking is their main color, and they used fractal as their contrast color. So these are what's called pinstripes. So that means each row is just knit, or each color is knit one row, and then you swap colors and knit a row. So those are called pinstripes. Standard stripes are 2 rows or more. Pinstripes are just a single row. And this is a top-down raglan style, so it's very easy, very approachable. And so they did, like I said, they were doing shocking and fractal. And so that was kind of fun because you can see in fractal, you've got these pops of that shocking color, that shocking pink. So you get these areas where it kind of blends and it kind of blurs the line between the stripes. And I think that's a really neat effect. So the combos I put together, I kind of played on that idea of you want some contrast, but it's kind of neat when it just kind of ebbs and flows and blends.
Yeah. And again, under kits, under Manos kits, you'll see the pullover. And these are the sizes that it comes in.
They have a decent size range for this pullover, which I appreciated. I'm always trying to find as wide a size range as possible. And it is meant to be a bit more of an, you know, open and baggy piece. It's not going to be form-fitting. So if we open those kits, so there's your original combo. This one's got this beautiful gondola, which is that variegated color, the second one. It's a newer yarn. And it's kind of hard to tell in that picture, but those grays and those dark bits have this beautiful purple tint to them. So I think it goes beautifully with that more gray purple that they have. I think it's a nice contrast. Got to have a green one. I think this has a lot of really fun greens, and that's the mallard. The base is the mallard color, which for not being a green fan, I think that one's quite pretty. At least I think it's mallard.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And of course, ooh, golden yellow, that's topaz. And this beautiful autumn mixed skein. It's got all those rich, lush autumn colors in it. Browns, greens, rust reds, and some deep purples. And it picks out perfectly that topaz color. Nice kind of classic subtle gray. And then I wanted to be kind of exciting. And so I put this with it. And it's got these pops of kind of the yellow and pink and a deeper blue. And I think that would look really nice in a pullover. As a combo knit stripe together. Oop, you skipped one. This was my second fun one. If you didn't want to go with the blaringly shocking pink, you could do this really fun bright aqua. And this skein, the colored skein, is called Carnival, which I think it is really quite exciting. Matches perfectly with that aqua. So you'll get that same effect as with the shocking and fractal, where it'll blend and meld and mix in places and still be really fun.
Yeah, I really hope somebody makes that one up. I want to see it.
Yeah, and then show it to us. And then your standard jailbird sweater. You got to have a black and white, classic black and white stripe. Very French, very jailbird. I also think you could do a really nice, if you're going for those classic striped pullovers, because this is just a great fun shape, easy sweater. It's a free pattern. It's one of those that they just want to help you make a sweater. So you could do, you know, your classic cream and navy stripe, a beautiful crisp white and red stripe, you know, any of these solid colors striped in here would be lovely. I went with the fun variegates because I thought that'd be fun. But again, we can help you with anything. While we're here, I'll go ahead and show you this little hat. We're going to be doing a class on this in January. We've already opened it up. Feel free to sign up. It's beautiful. It's called the Sideways Cable Hat. Is it focusing? Kind of. And I actually originally thought that you made the cable sideways and then you picked up the stitches and knit the cap, kind of like another hat we have here. But Chris made this one and she said, no, these are short rows. So you make the whole thing all in one go, and then you just give it a nice little seam on the inside. You provisional cast on. So it's very easy to seam it up at the end. But how cute is that? Nice and comfy. This beautiful sideways chunky cable, which I think is neat. Keep your
Very.
ears nice and toasty. Very fun.
And here's I'll show the class. And so,
And what's
yes, you'll learn about doing cables, provisional cast on, short row, wrap and turn.
Mhm.
It's Saturday, January 23rd from 9 to noon.
What I think is great about this hat, one of the things, and when you're doing these larger chunky cables, like in this picture and in the piece we have, you can actually do dark colors and it still shows up. That's one of the things with cables is you've got to be really careful with your color selection, because a lot of times your beautiful, all that hard work you put into making your cables will disappear in colors that are too dark. But when you scale them up like this, you're working in an Aran weight yarn, you're doing these big chunky cables, they'll stand out pretty much no matter what color you make them out of. I mean, they might still be hard to see in black, but still, I think it makes a lovely impact. I think, I don't know, the same color? No, it's not. All right, so that's the sideways cable hat, and that's the moire pullover. Now we got some cardigans. This is my favorite piece of this collection. This is called the Jessica coat. It's from I want to hold up and show you this texture. It's from their newer collection. They had, it was a whole collection of Jessica pieces. But look at that. I just love that texture. So here again, you get to see that depth and richness of I'm losing my words, of a thick and thin, yarn. So as the yarn changes, as the plies change with width, it really kind of stands out. And this is added to it. This is a slip stitch pattern, very simple slip stitch pattern, nothing complicated, but to great effect. It's an outer coat. Like I said, the Classica, not necessarily the best for next to skin. So a lot of times, you know, it's these outerwear pieces. It's these beautiful coats. It's these pullovers that you'll put over sweaters. It's got pockets, because you gotta have pockets. But I love this piece. It's got this wonderful high collar. It's also knit top down. You'll add the collars afterwards. It is open front. It's intended to be open front, but there's no reason you couldn't put buttons in there and button it down the front. And I think if you did great big chunky buttons, it would also look really nice. Or if you did smaller double-breasted buttons, I think that would be cute.
Yeah, very.
But yeah, what I loved about this sweater was this texture. Very easily achieved. It's nothing too complicated. You're not going to have to memorize this huge chart. It's just slip stitches and the magic of that Classica yarn.
And you'll notice how the color changes slightly at Manos. They refer to that as stria, which is the imperfections, to your point, within the color. So it's not. That's why they call their solids semi-solids, because they're not, you know, machine dyed. They're not commercially dyed. They're all hand and kettle dyed.
Yeah.
So you get those things, and that adds to the depth of the piece.
Yeah. So that's, as I was, like you said, as I was talking earlier, it's that extra layer of connectedness, right? That extra layer of human touch, of you know, we're closer to the source in that sense. You know, we'll get in batches, and sometimes they will make us laugh with how different they are, and how variegated compared, you know, or even within one batch, you might have one skein that's just this wild outlier. And of course, we always try to make sure we match your yarns in batch when we send them out to you, make sure they play well together. But honestly, I think that's kind of another thing that's fun about this, you know, we're not searching for perfection. We're searching for handmade and quality and something to love and cherish and to wear. And so yeah, you know, they're not going to be exactly the same. It's not going to be perfectly even, and that's part of the beauty and richness of them. And that goes for all the yarns, not just Classica, but I think it is exemplified in Classica because of that thick and thin, that sheep that is from the country, this extra layer of getting close to these women.
And yes, that pattern is on our website, the
Look at
Jessica
that.
code.
I mean, you know, standing next to a horse is going to make anything you're wearing look pretty fancy, but I think that jacket is really fun.
Yeah, it's designed to be oversized as well. It's, what is it?
Yeah, it's a throw it on. It's an overcoat. It's an over on top of everything else you're wearing. It's just loose and warm and cozy. This is kind of you can lounge around the house or you can go out into the world kind of coat. And so, yeah, she's really playing up that open frontness. Like I said, it's meant to be worn open and kind of breezy. But there's no reason, I think I'd go up a size, but there's no reason you couldn't put buttons down the front if that's more your thing. The second one, in my favorite color, again, we've got a texture here that is so easy to achieve. It makes a big impact and a difference, but it's just a few little pearls thrown in here and there in a regular pattern. It's not quite a true waffle pattern. It's just, you know, you knit two and then you purl two.
We used to recommend Classica all the time to beginner knitters. And one of the great things about it, and for those of us whose gauge is perhaps not perfect every time, that
Idle that.
hand spun thick and thin, as we say, hides a world of ills.
This is true. Yeah. So just embrace it. It's supposed to be imperfect. This one is, and again, another open front. It's not a very thick collar, but the neck kind of goes up high. So you've got a lot of coverage back here, which I think is nice. Also, you'll notice a good way to blend your mismatching skeins. You can see their back panel was a shade different than their front panel.
That's great.
So it's another fun way to kind of mix in your yarns. Typically what we suggest with hand dyes is that every row or every other row, you can either do every single row, every 2 rows, that you alternate skeins. So you keep them attached and you just pick it up and drop it. And that'll really help mix it. For your true variegates, that also helps mix your color pooling, so you don't get as much pooling or flashing if you don't care for that kind of stuff. So it really helps mix it all together when you alternate rows like that. Otherwise, yeah, you can kind of do color blocks. You know, these are, this piece is seamed, so that would be really easy to do. You can seam your pieces. I think this would be another piece that would be fun to do some contrast colors. You know, if you did just like a tiny little line down here, or you did your cuffs and collar in a different color. There's some fun ways, or even because they're set in sleeves, because you knit them separate, you could do your sleeves in a completely different color, almost like a, gosh, like a Letterman jacket or a Henley type sweatshirt. I think it'd be really cute. So you can play with that.
Well, that would be fun.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. So this one's a little smaller. It's still not fitted, but it's not quite as oversized as the other. Did I ever tell you its name? Risco. I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Risco.
And I'll share that. Yes, it's on our website. Yeah, just a beautiful piece. Between 5 and 8 skeins, that's all it takes to make that piece.
Yeah, because it's not very big, so it's kind of nice. And you get to, but you still get to really enjoy and work with Classica. And here is our, oh wait, no, we have another thing. Here's another pullover. Told you I was having fun with the pullovers. So here we're getting a bit more trendy, right? We've got this asymmetrical design. I've been told that these asymmetrical designs help draw your eye and let things play. And that's supposed to be more flattering to women. I don't know about all that, but I think it's pretty. And it's very nicely done. It's nothing complicated. This isn't a seam or anything. You just knit it down. I think it's up or down. But these are just increases and decreases. So you just change your patterning. You've got, you know, a line here where you just change your pattern. And it does it again to great effect. And then you pick up and knit your sleeves. These are added on after. Done in 2 pieces. So you do a front piece and a back piece, but there's some continuity. Actually, no, it's not seam because this is a faux seam. Probably help if I knew what I was talking about. But I think that's the thing about it is it's really quite simple. It's nothing flashy, but it's elegant in its simplicity. Like this high neckline, that's kind of, it's not quite a boat neckline, but it's got this wide look, which I think adds to its bit more modern flair, but with that high neckline. So it's really nice, but also very simple to knit. So it's a very approachable knit. And then, yeah, I think you do the bottom. This part is done in the round, and then you split for the sleeves, and then you knit the sleeves down, pick up and knit. Very easy to do. Again, knit some pearls for this beautiful texture that's got depth and really shines with that Classica because you've got this thick and thin, this wabi-sabi approach. And I think this is a beautiful color too. This is a very classic color. Anybody can wear this color. I think it's shale. So
that's called Ormiston, and that didn't make it onto our website.
oh, it didn't? I thought I pulled it up on our thing. Maybe not. We'll get it there for you. We can definitely get it for you.
Right. And it's oh no, I take it back. Yes, it is on our site.
See?
There. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it is, as it turns out, on our website.
Yeah. You did it.
Hey, sometimes, you know, it
Oh
happens.
yeah, see, you can see it's got that kind of high collar look, and she's just got it with like a pair of jeans, and it looks really nice. Again, it's not necessarily, you know, there's no shaping, but because of that diagonal and how it draws your line and how the lines work, it's flattering. The neckline is flattering, the little cross line is flattering. It's just a beautiful piece. Even without a horse in the picture. And then our last piece, 'tis the season to be cozy, and that includes your fingers. So I wanted to bring in, you've got to have some accessories, especially this time of year. So I think these are really fun. Again, see here you've got these big splashy cables, and they're done in this kind of dark color, but you can see them because they're nice and big and splashy, and they're made out of this great big yarn. And I always look at these things and I think, oh gosh, nobody's fingers are that long. But you stick your little hand in there and it fits perfectly. And I believe this is just 1 skein. Look at that. Oh, cozy. Dovecoat.
Yep, one skein makes both.
Yes. Of course, how cute would it be? You could do like color blocks or do your thumb in a different, no, you make it at the same time. You can't do that. If you were fancy, you could. You could do the cuffs in a different color. Great little gift. So for things, you know, like I said, this may not, some folks may not like Classica for next to their skin, but you can definitely do Classica on your hands. And with, and for, you know, mittens and gloves, you want a yarn that's going to be hard wearing, that you can actually, you know, you're not afraid to touch cold railings with because you'll mess up your yarn. You can do that with Classica.
So here's my Classica story. For many, many years, I thought I was allergic to wool. And I was absolutely convinced because every time I wore something with wool, I got rashes. It was scratchy. I really didn't like it. So for years and years, I wouldn't touch anything with wool. Then I met Chris, and we chatted, and she says, "Oh, I'm going to make a hat for you." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, you know, I'm allergic to wool." And she said, "Yeah, uh-huh." So she made me a hat. She knitted me a hat and a beret because I used to wear berets all the time. And I wore it for a couple of weeks, and I finally said, "So what's this hat made out of?" She goes, "Oh, it's wool." And it turned out it was Manos Clasica. And this was long before we owned the store. And I wore that hat for years. And right on my head, I never had any issues. It wasn't scratchy. It's just a really nice yarn. So,
She told you to quit being a baby.
well, yeah, as it turned out, I wasn't allergic to wool. Like most people, I was allergic to the quality of wools that I had worn, the stuff that my mother had bought for me when I was a kid, the way they were processed, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't wool, it was, or it
Well,
was,
I don't think merino was as prevalent then. I know this isn't merino, but yeah, it was just all those really, really hard wearing wools that people were using.
yeah,
And now they're doing so many blends, and there's so many different breeds. And Corriedale is actually a really nice yarn. What I find interesting is we have different folks come in, and it's really interesting because everyone's tactile experience can vary widely. You know, there are some folks that come in and they go to the Classica and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is great, I love it." And some folks that, you know, they kind of barely touch it and cringe and horror and move on. um, and that's fine, but I think if you could give it a try, if you could, you know, especially blocking and washing makes a huge difference for any yarn. It's one of the things we often say about the Noro yarns. They're considered, you know, more quote unquote rustic, talk about getting close to the source. So but Noro can change drastically once you wash it. And um, not that I think Classica needs to change drastically once you wash it, but I think it's worth a try. There are so many things that maybe you worry about first touch in the store, um, but really it's nice yarn when you wear it, when you wash it, when you feel it, when you cuddle up with it on the couch. It's gonna feel soft. It's gonna feel warm and cozy, and you're not gonna be, you know, comparing it all the time. The other hand's in your pocket with, you know, cashmere. So I think you'll really enjoy it. Give it a try.
you know, the trick that we learned, it started with Noro, but with any of the wool yarns, when people talk about that the yarn is rough or coarse, um, we got clued into this a number of years ago. Use hair conditioner on it.
Yeah, it's a hair. I mean, this is, you know, it's right off the little shoop, one around on the, you know, on the outside. This is what keeps them warm and cozy. And so, yeah, it's a hair. You can definitely put conditioner on it, and that'll make a difference.
And I
Um,
will tell you when it's we didn't realize how what a difference it made that the Manos yarns are all from sheep in Uruguay. One of the things in Uruguay is the animals are all free range, so there's no, you know, we were in a lot of places in Uruguay and saw lots and lots and lots of sheep, and they're not in cages, they're not bound in, they're also not given antibiotics or any of that kind of stuff. Uruguay has a history of raising their animals naturally. It's why people who are beef eaters love Uruguayan beef. It's a point of pride to them that you hear about Argentinian beef. In Uruguay, they say, we export to Argentina.
those are our cows.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if they're in there, you know, they've been there for generations, centuries, they're in their natural habitat, you know, the population is stable, they're all happy, they don't need antibiotics because they're not stressed out in cages and in foreign countries. And so, yeah, they're living a good life, and then we get to enjoy their byproduct.
So is anybody on the call not knit with Classica? Who has not knit with Classica? Oh, maybe everybody has. Well, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
That's great. Well, it
I
has been
haven't
around
knit
for a
with
long.
Classica.
I'm sorry.
I said I haven't,
Ah,
but I will because I signed up for the hat class.
oh, that's great.
There you go. I was
Yeah,
gonna say, after this presentation, are you inclined to knit with Classica?
It seems fascinating.
It's really interesting. I think there's so much history in it. Like, you know, it's their first yarn, the kind of yarn that launched it all. And like I said, that closeness to the makers is what really draws me to it. And really, you know, because I used to be one of those folks that was like, oh, thick and thin, you know, where's the consistency? There's no consistency. It makes it look all weird in places. But it's again, it's that extra layer of humanity in it, this lovely connection to other people around the world, and this joy and beauty and imperfection. I think it's really nice.
it was impressive meeting them, meeting the spinners. Not everybody. For those of you that don't know, Manos is owned by the women that produce these products. So the women spinning it are the artisans that are owners of the company. And not all of them are spinners. The ones who are spinners are very senior. They're very, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Some folks think, you know, that's, you know, these are skilled women. So it's not to say that they couldn't make, I'm sure they could make beautifully even, almost perfect yarn, but that is not the point of this yarn. I think that would actually take away from the charm and enjoyment of it. It is intentional. It is designed to be a thick and thin. And so these women kind of perfectly execute this imperfect, beautiful yarn.
And they do it as, while we were there, they're spinning away, and their spinners, like here, we're so used to these people obsess about these, you know, gourmet spinning wheels and all that kind of stuff. What they have, it's like an industrial electric motor strapped on a tabletop with a belt going to the spinner, and an on-off switch on the floor. And they hit the on-off switch, it spins up, and they're just spinning away. And the whole time they were there, they're just chatting away with us while they're spinning. And actually, at the time, they were spinning their other hand-spun yarn called Serpentina, which, yes, that comes out as a perfect worsted weight. And they're just chatting away, you know, telling us about the history. The one woman's telling us the story of her when she used to come there with her mother to Manos before they had running water in the cooperative. They're very impressive women. It was an absolute joy to meet them.
Yeah. So this is a lovely yarn, and I wanted to highlight it because we often in the winter we turn very, you know, we turn inwards. We stay at home. It's cozy inside. So this is a great blanket yarn, great accessories yarn when you're out in the cold. You've got mitts and pullovers and heavy jackets, and there's nothing like wool to insulate you from the cold. We had someone come in today who noticed the remarkable difference of warmth from going from an acrylic yarn to a wool yarn, and he bought some Maxima, so I thought that was really fun. It makes a big difference, and it's just lovely to work with. So I think that about sums up my Classica presentation. Hopefully it went well. And thank you for joining us. We're in our second week. We didn't get to it the first week. We've been busy. Happy holidays, everyone. And yeah, any questions? Anything I can talk about again? Gray sweater.
So yeah, it's, oh, perfect. You saw that.
I saw that one. The Jessica coat. Wait, the pullover or the jacket?
I bet it's the pullover.
Probably. But I like this one the best. Are you sure it's not this one? Yes, the kid jacket. It's got pockets. Look at those pockets. Pullover. All right.
Pullover.
All right. All right. Here's our pullover. So again, yeah, you've got this kind of boxy construction, but that diagonal line and the various vertical and horizontal lines give it a really interesting movement. And they make it flattering for being, you know, nothing super tailored. Very easy. And we can help you. Short shoulders, so you're not even doing, you know, short rows that one. The sleeves are super interesting. Ah, yes. So you've got some shaping on the sleeves there, I think. Yeah, you've got a little bit of a tailored look. I love these kind of patterns where you're mixing, it's almost a waffle pattern, right? Where you're mixing these columns of stockinette and then you've got your stockinette, but then you've got some pearl rows here. Usually these fabrics are resistant to curling, so that's kind of nice. Don't have to worry about flat things curling up on you. It doesn't do anything, you know, funny twisting or shaping because it's got a nice balance of knits and pearls. And it's very simple, you know, it's just knits and pearls and you've got this whole new all over texture.
Yeah, that's
And
such a great piece.
I think it really is. That's why I brought it in. But you've got this, I think it's nice, these high collars with, it's this wide high collar that I think is, I don't want to say modern because I doubt it's new. But it's an interesting touch. I think it's a nice design feature. You know, it's kind of like that thing, well, no, never mind. I was gonna say it's like that thing where you do a high front and you show off a little of your shoulders in the back. It's not quite like that, but it gives me that same sense, I guess, of you know, kind of elegant beauty. If I'm not being too romantic about it.
And just as a reminder, it's the Ormiston.
You knit it on needles.
Oh, good. Needles
Yeah,
are good.
you
It
use needles.
is, what does it say? Oh, US 8s.
8.
16 and 24-inch circular, and of course, double points.
Yeah. Double.
And just as a, because I had forgotten that this was on our website, this website I first pulled up, this is the Fairmont Fibers. We've talked about it before, but it just bears repeating that this is the US distributor for Manos del Uruguay called Fairmont Fibers. And there's a whole little patterns link. So you can go in and you can say, what patterns are available for
Wool Classica.
Wool Classica, for instance. Here are 17 patterns that they charge for. Like, yeah, look, there's another blanket.
I think this is a great blanket yarn. I really want to make a blanket out of this stuff.
Yeah.
Some more beautiful cables. I love how the cables stick out in this yarn because it's an Aran weight, so it's ever so slightly heavier than a worsted weight. So yeah, look at all these beautiful cable work they did. You get these beautiful stand out chunky cables. I think they exaggerated a bit with the cables they chose, but the yarn really plays it up. And so you don't have to have this perfectly machined, precise yarn to make your cables, you know, perfectly machined and precise cables. You can have this beautiful rustic, imperfect yarn and still have this gorgeous, outstanding sweater. And yeah, these are just the paid patterns. There's a bunch of free patterns as well. And that obviously goes for all their yarns, but we're highlighting Maxim or Classic. Look at that, 13 patterns.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to make that hat? Look at that.
Right? Again, and so yeah, your opportunities for color play, like this little Elizabethtown thing, oh, how darling is that? And you could put that, you know, under your little outer jacket. So you've got, you know, kind of you've got one of those classic but mildly boring black and, you know, black windbreakers, but you put that under the collar. Oh, that's gonna be beautiful, especially out of a cream. Ooh, that would look good.
Oh yeah, this is a great, this little piece, you know, you grab a skein. Oh yeah, you've got that niece you forgot to make a Christmas present for, spend not very much time, and you're up and running.
And yeah, and that's a $20 project. Like that's a great deal. So here's where that Bordeaux pattern, if you scroll up, that cream cardigan. So
Oh
here's
yeah?
that idea I was talking about. You could easily apply that to the Jessica coat. But you know, here's the coat where it already has it. You could always do this one too. Patterns, I love the little detail on the sleeves, on the little cuff ends there. It's a beautiful outerwear. So your outer coat, your bigger coats, your outer jackets, beautiful yarn for that.
You should do a yes knit along.
Oh yeah, we should do a Jessica knit along.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Get out of the way, mannequin. We need to see these colors. So yeah, let us know. Let's make blankets. I truly love this thing for blankets.
Oh,
No.
Christy said she made something. Christy, what is it you made? Oh, the headband.
Oh, let's show off Christy's headband. She's
Okay,
doing it.
hang on.
Keep modeling it, Christy. We're gonna splash you. Look at that.
Oh, sweet.
Hey.
Oh,
Oh,
that looks
see?
great.
Oh,
And here you have a very simple pattern, which is
Sorry for the hair, but you know.
yeah, it's perfect for playing with those variegated colors because look how fun that is.
Easy peasy.
Very lovely. Keeps your little ears warm. Perfect.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
You bet.
Oh, fabulous. So I saw Lori said yes. Lori, are you saying yes to a knit along?
I think Lori always says yes to knit along.
That's true. She does.
I'm going to pick on her because she's my friend.
That's right. Yes. Oh, excellent. Yeah, we should pick a knit along, shouldn't we? We actually have a plan for a different knit along for early next year, or maybe later next year. But yeah, that would be fun to do one of these as a knit along. The Jessica coat or the blankets.
So here's some of the, I find this stuff fun. I think sometimes, you know, don't let me lie to you. Sometimes we find it frustrating when we're trying to find, you know, a certain amount of skeins for folks. But most of the time we laugh and it adds to the uniqueness. These two skeins right here, these are the same color. So these are the batch differences you can get because these are hand dyed. But I think that's actually really fun. So I want to make a crochet cardigan out of Classica, and I need several skeins. But I decided to slowly collect them because I want to get this kind of fun thing going on where technically these are the same color. They're both called cinnamon, but they've got whole different personalities. And I think that just makes it really unique. So even if you and your friend each make a sweater out of one color, they could be different.
It's
And
true. And they're very careful. When we were there, we watched them. They use it's the most high-tech thing. Everything else in the studios are you know, it's a wood-fired boiler, and they're big. When they say kettle-dyed, they're truly like restaurant kettles that they're dipping things in. They hold the yarn up. It's very simple. It's a chain hanging from a pipe coming out of the ceiling that they hook onto it. But in the corner is a very high-tech digital scale that weighs the dye powder to 1,000th of a gram. So they're very careful about their formulas. But the reality is, you know, the water temperature might be a little different one day. The the humidity will change, the temperature will change, and it'll affect the color. Yeah, look at that beautiful multicolor in there.
Yeah. So it's just the depth and variation I think is really pretty. So yeah, I think it's fun to have that kind of variation, and it's just another layer of beauty.
That's
Like I
great.
said, we do still try to make sure we match your batches when they go out. But you know, if something looks a little off, try to embrace it. Try to see it for that, you know, extra layer of connectedness. And yeah, I just humanity is the word that keeps popping into my head. Um, you know, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for happiness.